INFJs are often misunderstood. People might see them as soft, overly idealistic, or even a little naive. They're quiet, and seem easy to overlook. But what if that appearance isn't a mistake? What if it's something they allow on purpose? You might have seen an INFJ smile and nod in a conversation, even though they clearly knew more than they let on. Or maybe they listened without interrupting, even when someone was being rude or condescending. It's easy to assume they didn't notice, or that they're just passive. But the truth is much deeper. INFJs aren't blind. They're not clueless. In fact, they're usually 10 steps ahead, emotionally, mentally, and intuitively. They notice subtle changes in tone, read the mood of a room, and pick up on feelings before they're even spoken. So why would someone so aware let others think they're naive? The answer lies in how INFJs see the world. They don't always feel the need to correct people. They value peace over pride. They observe more than they speak. And sometimes they let others believe what they want, because challenging them just isn't worth the emotional cost. This choice to seem naive can confuse people. It can make them underestimate the INFJ. But that's often the point. INFJs use this appearance as a kind of quiet protection. It lets them move through the world without being constantly on guard. It gives them time to observe, reflect, and decide how much of themselves to show. In this video, we're going to explore the 6 reasons why INFJs let people think they're naive. These aren't random behaviors. They're thoughtful decisions, shaped by years of experience and deep inner awareness. Each reason reveals something important about how INFJs work, and why they don't always show their full hand. If you're an INFJ, this may help you feel understood. And if you're not, but you care about one, it may help you see past the surface and appreciate the quiet strength underneath. Let's start with the first reason INFJs let others believe they're naive, a behavior that's not weakness, but strategy. Reason number 1, gentle presence to avoid conflict. One of the main reasons INFJs let others think they're naive is because they don't want conflict. It's not that they're afraid. It's that conflict drains them. It leaves them emotionally exhausted. And often, it doesn't lead to any real change. So when someone talks down to them, makes a false assumption, or tries to dominate a conversation, the INFJ may smile, nod, and stay quiet. Not because they agree, but because they've already weighed the situation. They've already decided that arguing won't help. That pushing back will only make things worse. To outsiders, this looks like passivity. But to the INFJ, it's a choice. A calm, measured decision to preserve peace, protect energy, and move on without unnecessary drama. They know that challenging someone's ego can backfire. They have seen how quickly a disagreement can turn into a fight. And most of the time, they're not interested in being right if it means losing their peace. So they let people talk. They let them believe what they want. And they observe, quietly, completely aware. This doesn't mean the INFJ doesn't care. In fact, they care deeply. But they choose their battles carefully. They know when a discussion is worth having, and when it's better to hold their tongue and wait. They also know that many people speak from emotion, more and not reason. And if someone isn't ready to listen, the INFJ won't waste time trying to be heard. This approach can be frustrating. INFJs often replay these moments later, thinking about what they could have said. But in the moment, they make the best decision for their emotional safety. They would rather seem naive than be pulled into unnecessary conflict. This is especially true in group settings or at work. If a coworker makes a rude comment or takes credit for their idea, the INFJ might let it slide. Not because they didn't notice, but because they're watching. Learning. Gathering insight for the long term. Over time, this gentle approach helps them build deeper understanding. They learn how people behave under pressure. They see who respects boundaries and who doesn't. And when the time comes, they know exactly how to respond. Some INFJs also use this method in relationships. If someone they care about says something unkind or confusing, they don't always call it out immediately. Instead, they give that person space to explain themselves later, if they're willing. If not, the INFJ files it away. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Letting others believe they're naive gives INFJs space to protect their peace and choose their moments. It's not about weakness. It's about knowing the cost of unnecessary fights and choosing peace instead. Reason number 2, letting others reveal more. Another reason INFJs let people think they're naive is because it helps them see the truth. When people believe the INFJ doesn't notice much, they tend to speak more freely. They drop their guard. They reveal more than they should. And the INFJ listens, quietly, patiently, and without giving away what they really think. INFJs are natural observers. They're always reading the room, tracking body language, and picking up on what's not being said. But they don't always show it. Instead of jumping in or confronting someone, they stay quiet. They create space for others to keep talking. And the more someone talks, the more the INFJ learns. People love to talk about themselves. And when they feel like they have the upper hand, they tend to let their true colors show. The INFJ knows this. So they allow the moment to unfold. They might nod, ask some simple questions, or say something vague like, "Oh, really?" or "That's interesting." But inside, they're paying close attention. By acting a little more innocent than they are, INFJs gather valuable information. They see who's genuine, who's manipulative, who's insecure, and who's just trying to impress. They take mental notes, but don't always let on that they've noticed anything. This technique also helps in difficult conversations. If someone is lying, exaggerating, or trying to cover something up, the INFJ will usually sense it. But instead of calling it out, they let the person continue. Over time, the truth has a way of coming out, especially when someone believes no one is questioning them. It's a form of emotional listening. INFJs don't just hear words. They hear motives. And the less they say, the more space others have to reveal who they are. This can be especially helpful in new relationships. INFJs are slow to trust, and they want to know who they're dealing with before they open up. By staying quiet and letting the other person lead, they gather the insight they need. If the person shows honesty, kindness, and emotional awareness, the INFJ may begin to reveal more. If not, they step back, often without saying why. Letting others think they're naive gives INFJs a way to gather truth without pressure. It helps them protect their heart while learning what they need to know. And when they finally speak their truth, it's calm, clear, and backed by deep understanding. Reason number 3, maintaining privacy. INFJs are naturally private people. They don't share their thoughts, feelings, or personal lives easily. Even in close relationships, they may hold back parts of themselves, not out of fear, but out of protection. Their inner world is rich, sensitive, and deeply personal. Letting others in takes time and trust. Because of this, INFJs often come across as mysterious or even a little distant. Some people mistake this privacy for innocence or naivety. They assume the INFJ must not know much, simply because they don't say much. But in reality, the INFJ may know more than they're letting on. They're just choosing not to share it. INFJs value inner peace. They don't want to explain themselves over and over. They don't want to open up only to be judged or misunderstood. So instead, they stay quiet. They observe. And they let others believe what they want. If someone assumes the INFJ is inexperienced, naive, or unaware, that's fine. The INFJ isn't interested in proving anything. They're more focused on maintaining control over who gets access to their thoughts and emotions. They want to feel safe before they speak freely. This need for privacy can show up in many areas of life. At work, the INFJ may avoid office gossip, choose their words carefully in meetings, and keep their personal life separate from their professional role. At home, they may have a private journal, a favorite spot to think, or routines they never talk about. Even with friends, there may be parts of their life they keep just for themselves. They're not being dishonest. They're being selective. By allowing others to see only a small part of who they are, INFJs protect the rest. This also helps them stay emotionally grounded. They've learned, often through painful experiences, that not everyone deserves access to their vulnerability. When people think the INFJ is naive, they may underestimate them. But this works in the INFJ's favor. It gives them more room to move without pressure. It lowers expectations. And it allows them to keep their boundaries strong without having to defend them. This habit also helps them manage emotional overload. INFJs are highly empathetic. They can get overwhelmed by others' emotions, especially when they feel expected to fix everything. By staying private, they control how much they give and when. In truth, their silence is often a filter. It helps them decide who is emotionally safe and who isn't. If someone earns their trust, they may open up. If not, they remain a mystery, and they're okay with that. Reason number 4, idealism that outlives experience. INFJs are natural idealists. From a young age, they believe in the good in people. They want to believe that honesty matters, that kindness wins, and that people will do the right thing if given the chance. Even when life proves otherwise, this hope doesn't go away. It just changes form. This idealism is one of their greatest strengths, but it can also make them look naive. They may give people second chances, trust someone who has let them down before, or stay hopeful in a situation where others have already given up. To outsiders, this seems unrealistic. But for the INFJ, it's a choice rooted in hope, not ignorance. Over time, INFJs do get hurt. They see the darker side of people. They experience betrayal, manipulation, and disappointment. But instead of becoming cold or bitter, many INFJs hold on to their core belief that people can grow and that good still matters. They don't ignore what's wrong. They just choose to believe in what's right, even when it's not popular. And they often keep that belief to themselves, especially when others label it as childish or foolish. When someone lies or acts selfishly, the INFJ may still hope that person will take responsibility. When a relationship ends, they may still want to believe it meant something. Even after being let down, they give others the benefit of the doubt, not because they don't know better, but because they want to live in a world where people try. This quiet belief can make them seem unaware. But they are aware. They're just choosing not to let pain harden them. This idealism doesn't mean they tolerate mistreatment. As they grow, INFJs learn to walk away from people who cross boundaries. But they don't stop believing in the possibility of change. They still hope for healing, for growth, for truth. And that hope shines through even when they don't say much. In conversations, they may seem too forgiving. In group settings, they may support an unpopular but compassionate view. They may even defend someone others have written off. And while this makes them appear soft or naive, it actually takes strength. It takes strength to keep believing when you've seen the worst. INFJs know what the world can be like, but they choose to show up with heart anyway. Reason number 5, choosing emotional safety. INFJs feel things deeply. Even small experiences can leave a big emotional mark. Because of this, they are very careful about when and how they show their feelings. They don't open up easily. And when they do, it's only with people who feel emotionally safe. That's why they sometimes let others think they're more innocent or unaware than they really are. It helps them avoid emotional risk. It protects them from opening up too soon or to the wrong person. When someone seems pushy, loud, or emotionally unsafe, the INFJ pulls back. They may act polite, quiet, or even a little clueless. This isn't because they don't understand what's going on. It's because they're shielding themselves. They don't want to give away their feelings to someone who won't handle them with care. By staying on the surface, they protect their deeper layers. They choose when to reveal their truth and when to stay silent. This gives them time to assess who they're dealing with. It gives them room to breathe and decide what feels right. Sometimes this emotional shield is misunderstood. People might think the INFJ is distant or guarded. But the truth is, INFJs are waiting to feel safe. Once they do, they're open, warm, and incredibly loyal. But until then, they keep their heart behind glass. They have likely been hurt in the past. Maybe they shared too much with someone who didn't respect it. Maybe they trusted someone who turned out to be dishonest. Those experiences taught them to be careful, and they listened. Now, when faced with someone new or intense, they stay quiet. They act neutral. They let the other person speak first. And if that person proves trustworthy over time, the INFJ may slowly open up. This approach is not about manipulation. It's about survival. Emotional safety is essential for INFJs. Without it, they can't connect. With it, they can flourish. Letting people think they're naive helps INFJs control how much they reveal and when. It gives them the power to protect their heart in a world that often moves too fast. They're not hiding out of fear. They're choosing honesty on their own terms. And when they do finally share their feelings, it's real, deep, and meaningful. Reason number 6, lowering expectations to protect themselves. Sometimes, INFJs let others think they're naive to protect themselves from expectations. When people think you know everything, they expect you to always have the answers. They expect emotional strength, leadership, or endless support. For the INFJ, this can be overwhelming, especially when they're already sensitive and easily drained. By seeming soft or unaware, the INFJ sets a quieter tone. People don't expect them to take charge of every problem or carry emotional weight for others. This creates space where the INFJ can just exist without feeling responsible for everyone around them. In many ways, it's a form of control. Not controlling others, but controlling how much pressure they accept. INFJs have likely learned this the hard way. They may have spent years being the strong one, the listener, the helper. Over time, it became too much. They gave and gave, but didn't always receive the same in return. So now they keep a lower profile. They stay quiet in group discussions. They let others speak first. They hold back their deeper thoughts unless they trust the people around them. They don't offer advice unless it's asked for. And sometimes they let people believe they don't see what's really happening, even when they do. This doesn't mean they're manipulative. They're simply choosing not to invite pressure into their life. When people see them as gentle or naive, they don't expect the INFJ to fix things. They don't constantly turn to them for emotional support. This helps the INFJ keep their boundaries without having to explain them. It's also a defense against disappointment. If someone expects too much from the INFJ and the INFJ delivers, they're rarely thanked. But if they fall short, they may feel guilt or shame. It's easier to let others keep expectations low because it reduces emotional risk. INFJs don't want to be the center of attention. They'd rather blend in, quietly contributing behind the scenes. When someone underestimates them, they don't always correct them. They might even prefer it. It gives them room to breathe, to choose how they show up, to move at their own pace. Sometimes this confuses people. They meet an INFJ, think they're sweet and innocent, and then months later realize how deep and thoughtful they truly are. By then, the INFJ has already assessed whether the person is safe. If they are, they'll get to see the fuller version. Lowering expectations isn't about weakness. It's about protecting emotional space. It's about staying grounded. And it's one of the quiet ways INFJs take care of themselves. Being an INFJ often means being misunderstood. But sometimes that misunderstanding isn't an accident, it's a choice. INFJs know who they are. They see more than they let on. And often, they decide to let people think they're naive, not because they are, but because it protects their peace. In this video, we looked at 6 deep reasons behind that choice. From avoiding conflict and letting others reveal their true selves, to protecting privacy and staying emotionally safe. From holding on to hope in a harsh world, to lowering expectations to manage pressure, each reason shows how intentional the INFJ really is. They aren't weak. They aren't clueless. They're aware. They're thoughtful. And they've learned that being seen as naive can sometimes be safer than being seen as strong. If you're an INFJ, this may sound familiar. Maybe you've let others believe you didn't notice something just to keep things calm. Maybe you've stayed quiet to protect yourself. Maybe you've felt torn between sharing your truth and keeping your peace. These aren't failures. They're signs of wisdom. You don't owe the world every part of yourself. You get to choose when to speak, when to listen, when to open up, and when to stay silent. That doesn't make you naive. That makes you powerful in a way many don't see coming. And if you know an INFJ, remember this: their silence doesn't mean they're lost. Their kindness doesn't mean they don't see what's going on. They may be letting you speak freely, not because they agree, but because they're learning about you. INFJs live in a world of quiet choices. And letting people think they're naive is sometimes one of them. But underneath that calm surface is a mind that sees deeply and a heart that protects what matters most.